We've been having budget talks with Joe Biden and the Republicans, and they've been trying to get to a deal so they can raise the debt ceiling. Republicans are demanding that they cut in spending as much as they're going to raise in the debt ceiling. Apparently, that number is in the ballpark of $2 trillion. They want to raise it by that much, $2.4 trillion sometimes they say. And apparently we already have that much in spending cuts, or we're near it, right? And we're now getting to the stage where we talk about the tax increases. So because we need to look at the revenue side. And look at what the Republicans did. Eric Cantor today walked out. He's like, nope, not doing it. But wait a minute, what happened? I thought we were going to do the spending cuts and then we're going to get to the tax increases. He's like, no, I'll just take the spending cuts. Otherwise, I'm goner. Okay? And he walks out. Now, there's a little backstory to this. He doesn't want to sign on to any tax increases because he thinks it'll hurt him politically with the Tea Party and everybody else. John Boehner didn't want to take responsibility for it. That's why he appointed Eric Cantor, his number 2 guy, to take that bullet. And Eric Cantor now turns around and goes, I'm not taking that bullet. I'll walk out. Now I leave it up to Boehner and Obama. Let them take the bullet, right? So there's a little internal GOP politics going on there. But then once Cantor walks out, Senator Kyle, the representative of the Republicans in the Senate, he walks out. So now, think about this strategically and how stupid the Democrats are. Because they already gave all the spending cuts. They already agreed to all the spending cuts. And now when it comes to the tax part of it, the Republicans are like, well, we don't have to give you that. You already agreed to the spending cuts. Of course, of course, of course. No, but they can't be this bad. We've talked about it a million times. Nobody could be that stupid. In negotiations, who gives the other side everything they want and then says, all right, now be a good guy and give me the rest? What? If you were in business world, you'd be immediately fired. You're the world's worst negotiator. You're like the anti-price line. You come in, you give the highest bid, and then at the end go, oh my God, what happened? Why did I get a bad deal? Yeah, because you gave the highest bid. You're supposed to give the lowest bid. So that's not the part that is interesting. That's to be expected. This is the games that we exactly knew were coming, right? Because Democrats want to lose. That's why they set it up this way. It's all kabuki theater. It's all a game that Washington is playing on us. But the part that really grates on me is this next part. So now that the Republicans have walked out, Max Baucus, who was the guy pretending to protect Medicare for the Democrats. And as I heard that back in the day, I was like, Max Baucus, corporate Max Baucus is the guy protecting Medicare? And I could have told you then. You know what that means? That means at the last moment, Max Baucus is going to go, oh, I was protecting it all along, but you know what? We got to make a deal. All right, Medicare. And that moment is today. So he says, all right, since they walked out, in order to get the extra taxes and to increase revenue, we'll give you Medicare cuts. So what happened to the spending cuts? What happened to $2 trillion in spending cuts? So those don't count at all. No, nobody's that stupid. No way, no how. I'm pounding the gavel, okay? Nobody's that dumb. Nobody's that bad a negotiator. The Democrats are throwing the game. They're throwing it on purpose. They meant to do this all along. They meant to do the Medicare cuts. And you know, Mark Warner, Senator, one of the Democratic senators negotiating with the Republicans in a separate group, is saying we're going to do lowering corporate taxes. They're going to. They're going to take away some loopholes, some subsidies, some deductions that raise revenue, and then they're going to lower tax rates, and they're going to cut Medicare anyway. They're going to do all of that because Washington already agreed to it. Because why? The rich and the powerful agreed to it. They don't give a damn what you think. Cutting Medicare, it does disastrously in the polls. Who cares, right? Raising taxes on the rich is an incredibly high rate. For raising taxes on millionaires is at 84% approval. You think they're going to do that? They're not going to do it. They might even lower taxes on them because it's not a democracy anymore. They've stolen our government. So the Democrats are just there to play the good cop as the Republicans play the bad cop. And they're like, oh my God, did we give away $2 trillion in spending cuts? Oh, and now the negotiations begin? Oh, we didn't see that coming. I am repulsed by the Democrats. Repulsed. So they say, don't worry. The Medicare cuts are not coming from the beneficiary side. They're coming from the provider side. So we will be cutting, some money that the doctors, the hospitals are getting, the medical equipment makers, and maybe even the drug makers. Look, if you cut the money that the drug companies are getting, great. Okay, I'm not an unreasonable guy. That money's wasted anyway. Okay, and if it doesn't hurt the beneficiaries, great, no problem, right? And by the way, those drug companies must have screwed over the administration because they had a rock-solid deal to get that health care law passed. And there was no way the administration was going to go back on that. But somehow now all of a sudden, this is the third time I've heard Democrats talking about maybe actually negotiating with drug companies to get better deals. That must mean that the Medicare, that those drug companies did not hold up their end of the bargain. Okay? Okay. And boy, I'm really surprised. I didn't see that coming, right? So, in the end, we are now starting fresh. After giving away approximately $2 trillion in spending cuts, none of that counted.